Ava had only been married a few months when her husband's family invited everyone for a big weekend at their estate. It was an important event, a fancy gala, full of important guests. She was excited to go, but just days before the trip, her in-laws told her there was no guest room left for her. Every space was already taken. Ava was confused, but her husband just said, "It's easier this way, babe. Don't take it personally." He went without her. Something didn't feel right. Ava had seen pictures of the house. It was huge, with many rooms. She didn't believe for a second there wasn't space. Still, she stayed quiet and didn't argue. The next morning, she packed a small bag and drove back to the estate. She wasn't invited, but she didn't care anymore. She had made a plan, and she wasn't coming alone. At dinner, the family was gathered at the long dining table, smiling and laughing. The doors opened, and Ava walked in, calm and confident. Everyone stared. Her husband stood up, shocked. His mother forced a smile. "Oh, you didn't have to come, dear." Ava just smiled back. "I was nearby and thought I'd stop in," she said. Behind her walked in a woman no one expected to see. An older woman, quiet, but with a steady look in her eyes. She used to work for the family, many years ago. She had been let go suddenly and paid to stay quiet, but Ava had found her, and she knew the truth. The room went quiet. Tension filled the air. The woman sat next to Ava. They said nothing at first. Then Ava stood up and looked around the table. "I just wanted to see the room that wasn't available," she said calmly, "because I found out it was never about space. It was about keeping me out." Someone at the table gasped. Ava turned to her husband. "You knew, didn't you?" she asked softly. His face turned pale. Her eyes moved to his mother. "And you knew what this woman could reveal." The older woman looked up, ready to speak. The truth was about to come out, and no one at the table would forget what they were about to hear. The invitation came for a weekend celebration at the family estate. It was an engagement party for the sister of her husband, Jason. Everything sounded grand. A big house, lots of guests, and a chance to feel like part of the family. Bags were packed, and the plan was set. But 2 days before the event, a message came from the mother-in-law. There was no room left for her to stay, the message said. All the guest rooms were full. Jason, however, was still welcome to come. Confused, she asked if they could share a room or stay nearby. Jason simply replied, "It's just easier this way. Don't take it personally." People told her to understand, to not cause trouble. They said it was just a small mix-up, not meant to hurt her, so she stayed home. Jason left for the estate without her. He kissed her goodbye like nothing was wrong. That night, something didn't feel right. The house was large, more than large enough for guests. Curiosity took over, and she opened her laptop. She searched for the estate online. There it was, listed on a vacation rental site. The photos showed clean, ready guest rooms. The pictures were recent. The guest wing looked untouched, fully available. There had never been a space issue. The truth was clear. She wasn't left out by mistake. She had been left out on purpose. But why? The answer came early the next morning. A message popped up from a friend who followed local events. Attached was a photo taken outside the estate gates. In the picture, a woman was stepping out of a black car, dressed well, holding a suitcase, looking comfortable. It was Jason's ex-girlfriend. The woman who once dated her husband had been invited to the family estate. She had arrived the day after Jason did. The same house that had no room had a space waiting for someone else, someone chosen. It hit like a cold wave. While she was told to stay home and be quiet, another woman had been welcomed instead. The guest room hadn't disappeared. It had simply been given away. Anger sat in her chest like a stone. Her husband hadn't defended her. His family had lied, and someone from the past had been given her place. No one said it aloud, but the message was clear. She didn't belong, but deep down, she knew one thing for sure. They would soon find out just how wrong they were. She didn't argue when they told her there was no room. She just smiled and said it was okay. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. The house was big. There had to be space. Still, she stayed calm. She booked a small Airbnb near the estate and kept her plan to herself. While her husband went to the party alone, she began to watch from a distance. She didn't want to cause a scene. She just wanted to know the truth. Why had she been left out? That evening, she met up with someone from the past, a friend who had gone to college with Jason. They talked for a while, and then the truth slipped out without warning. The friend said, "Look, I probably shouldn't say this, But your mother-in-law told people you weren't invited because you're not one of us. He looked uncomfortable. They gave the room to someone else. Jason's ex said it was just to test the waters. Those words stayed in her head. Not one of us. Test the waters. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't about space. It was a plan. Her heart felt heavy. She had done everything to be respectful. She had tried to fit in, to be polite, to give her husband the benefit of the doubt. But now she knew the truth. They didn't forget about her. They pushed her out, on purpose. The worst part wasn't just that the guest room was given to someone else. It was who they gave it to. Jason's ex. Someone the family had always liked more. Someone who made her feel like a stranger in her own marriage. Now everything made sense. The fake excuses, the cold smiles, the last-minute message saying there was no space. It was all planned. She began to wonder if Jason had known. Had he agreed? Had he stayed quiet on purpose? Maybe he had never stood up for her. Maybe he had always let them decide who belonged and who didn't. Sitting alone in the Airbnb, she felt the truth settle in. They never wanted her there. They didn't think she was good enough, but they had no idea what she would do next. She stayed quiet at first, but she didn't stop thinking. The lies, the way they pushed her out, the way her husband said nothing. It all stayed in her mind. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. Instead, she started looking for proof. She checked social media. Her sister-in-law had posted a short video from the estate. In the background, Ava noticed something strange. Jason's ex walking through the hallway, carrying a glass of wine, smiling like she belonged. The video was deleted later, but Ava had already saved it. She also checked hotel bookings and travel posts. The ex had posted a photo of her suitcase with the caption, "Weekend Escape." The location matched the area near the estate. But the real truth came when Ava looked deeper. A receipt had been accidentally shared in a family group message weeks earlier, a flight booking made by her mother-in-law. The passenger name wasn't Jason or any family member. It was the ex. The picture was now clear. Her mother-in-law had paid for the ex to come. It wasn't a surprise visit. It was planned from the start. They had chosen who to invite and who to leave behind. Ava wasn't just forgotten. She was replaced. But she wasn't going to stay silent. She packed a bag, dressed with care, and called someone she hadn't spoken to in years. It was an older woman who had once worked for the family. She had been there for years, but left suddenly with no explanation. Ava remembered her being kind and loyal. She had heard whispers that this woman knew something about the family, something they wanted to keep quiet. The next evening, Ava returned to the estate. She didn't say she was coming. She just said she had to drop something off for Jason. She was calm, polite, and steady. She walked into the house with the woman beside her. The family was gathered in the living room, dressed for dinner. Laughter stopped when they saw her. Jason stood up quickly. His mother's smile faded fast. "Oh, you're here," she said. "Yes," Ava replied softly. "Just stopping by." No one knew what to say. Then she looked around and said, "This is my friend. She used to work here. I thought you'd all want to say hello." The room went silent. She wasn't there to beg or to fight. She was there to show them she knew everything. The lies, the secrets, the way they tried to erase her. She had the proof, the witness, and the courage. And now they would all have to sit in the truth. Dinner was already being served at the estate. Laughter and voices filled the room. Everyone was relaxed, enjoying the evening. Then came a knock at the front door. A family member opened it, and there stood Ava. She looked calm and confident, dressed neatly, holding a small box. Her face gave nothing away. Jason stood up from the table, shocked. His mother stared in surprise, but quickly put on a fake smile. "Oh," she said, with a forced laugh. "You didn't have to come, dear." Ava smiled politely. "I was staying nearby," she said softly. "Thought I'd just stop by for a quick visit." No one knew what to say. The air grew tense. Then someone stepped into the doorway behind Ava. An older woman, quiet, dressed plainly, but standing tall. The room fell silent as soon as people saw her face. She had once worked for the family, many years ago. She had suddenly disappeared without a word. People remembered her, but no one ever talked about her. Now, here she was, back at the house where she had once worked every day. Ava stepped inside, and the woman followed her. They both walked slowly toward the dining room. Jason's mother stood frozen. Others whispered to each other but didn't know what to do. "I just thought it would be nice to stop in and say hello," Ava said calmly. "And I brought someone who hasn't been here in a while." Jason looked pale. He knew this wasn't just a visit. The woman said nothing yet. but her eyes scanned the room with quiet power. She had worked for the family long enough to know their stories, the ones they kept hidden. She knew what had really happened behind closed doors, and why she had been paid to leave quietly. The family had always kept a clean image. They cared about reputation, about what others thought. But that reputation had a price, and secrets behind it. Now, one of those secrets had just walked through the front door. Ava looked around the table. No anger, no yelling, just quiet strength. She wasn't there to fight. She was there to be seen, and to remind them that the truth always finds its way back. The room was filled with quiet chatter and the sound of silverware when she stood up. She held her glass gently, smiling as she looked around the table. All eyes turned to her. She spoke calmly, but her words carried weight. "I just want to thank you all for this lovely evening," she said with a soft smile. "It means a lot, especially since I was told there wasn't a place for me here." Her voice stayed polite, but everyone could feel the edge. The family members looked around, confused and unsure. Jason's mother gave a small laugh and said, "Oh dear, it was just a mix-up. These things happen during busy weekends." She nodded. "Yes, that's what I thought too, until I saw the video of someone else walking through the guest wing, someone who didn't live here but looked very comfortable." She held up her phone and pressed play. The screen showed Jason's ex, smiling and relaxed, walking through the hallway with a glass of wine in hand. The room went quiet. Some people looked shocked. Jason's mother froze, her smile disappearing. "She was staying in the guest room," Ava said, her voice even. "The one you said didn't exist. The one that was supposed to be full." Jason's mother quickly spoke up. "That video doesn't prove anything. She just dropped by." Before she could finish, Ava swiped again on her phone. She showed a receipt, a flight paid for by Jason's mother, with the ex's name on it. Then came screenshots of messages from a group chat, planning the whole thing weeks before. Jason stood up fast, avoiding her eyes. "I'm done. I'm not staying here for this." She looked at him. "Not so fast. We're not done yet." The woman who came with her stood up slowly. The room went still again. Everyone knew her face. She had worked for the family for many years and left suddenly without a reason. "I didn't leave because I wanted to," the woman said. "I was asked to go. I knew too much. I saw things this family wanted to hide. I stayed quiet for a long time, but I was never treated fairly." Jason's mother tried to speak, but no words came out. Ava stood beside the woman. "You told me I wasn't one of you. You replaced me without a second thought, but I was never the problem." The table stayed silent. No one could look her in the eye. She had come with truth, and no one could run from it now. Everyone sat still as the woman who came with Ava looked around the table. Her voice was calm, but each word hit hard. She said she had worked for the family for many years and saw more than she was ever supposed to. She had cleaned rooms, served meals, and stood quietly in the background. But she had eyes, she had ears, and she remembered everything. She said the family had always kept secrets. They covered up theft, they treated staff badly, then acted like nothing happened. And there was cheating too. Jason's father had an affair years ago, and the woman he cheated with had a child. She paused and looked at Jason's mother. "That child is me," she said softly. The room went silent. No one spoke. Jason's father stared at his plate. Jason's mother looked shocked and pale. Some relatives gasped. Others looked away. The woman continued. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone, but I think it's time the truth is told. You kept me out of sight. You paid people to stay quiet. You used that guest room to hide problems. I wasn't a mistake. I was just hidden." She said the room Ava was told wasn't available was always kept ready, not for family, but for people like her, people who had to be brought in quietly and sent away just as quietly. That room was never about comfort. It was about control. Jason sat still, not saying a word. His hands were tight on the table, his face frozen. Ava stepped forward. She looked at all of them. Her voice didn't shake. "You told me there was no space for me," she said. "You said I didn't belong. But the truth is, I was never the problem. I was just the reminder of one you couldn't erase." Her words hung in the air. The room felt heavy. No one could deny it anymore. The lies, the secrets, the way the family always tried to look perfect while pushing others down. It was all out now. She didn't need to shout or cry. She had brought the truth, and it spoke for itself. The woman beside her stood proud, no longer in hiding. Together they turned to leave. They had said what needed to be said. The house behind them was full of silence, shame, and people who had run out of excuses. The room stayed quiet after the truth came out. No one knew what to say. Everyone looked shocked. Some stared at the table, others looked away. Jason's mother stood up slowly, her face pale. She said nothing. Then she walked out of the room, wiping her eyes as she went. Jason looked at Ava, panic in his eyes. He followed her toward the door. "Please," he said, his voice low. "You don't have to tell anyone else. We can fix this. Just keep it between us." She looked at him for a moment, calm, quiet, steady. "It was never just between us," she said. "You let them treat me like I didn't belong. Now they know I do." He opened his mouth again, but no words came. She turned away. The woman who came with her stood near the door. Ava walked up and gave her a warm hug. "Welcome home," she whispered. The woman smiled for the first time that night. It wasn't just a smile of thanks. It was a smile of freedom. After years of being hidden, Ava stepped outside into the warm night air. The sky was quiet, and the house behind her seemed far away now. She got into her car and sat still for a moment. Then she picked up her phone, opened the camera, and hit record. Her face was calm, her voice soft but strong. "You don't owe anyone grace when they try to erase you," she said. "You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Speak your truth, stand your ground, and leave when you're not respected." She ended the video, saved it, and started the engine. As she drove away, she didn't look back. There was nothing behind her worth holding on to. The lies were no longer hers to carry. The shame was never hers in the first place. She had come with the truth. She had said what needed to be said. Now she was free, and for the first time in a long time, she felt peace. A few days after everything happened, she sat alone in her new apartment. The sun was shining through the window, but her thoughts were heavy. So much had been said, but part of her still felt unfinished. She opened her laptop and started typing. She didn't use names. She didn't even say who she was. She just told the truth, every detail, every lie, every secret that had been hidden behind fake smiles and polite words. When she was done, she posted it online without any name or photo. At first, nothing happened, but by the next morning, the post had spread everywhere. People were shocked by the story. Thousands of comments appeared within hours. Everyone wanted to know who the story was about, but she stayed quiet. Then, something unexpected happened. Former house staff began leaving comments. Some said they had seen the same things. Others shared worse stories, how they had been treated unfairly, how they were forced to stay silent, how they were fired suddenly after seeing too much. Distant family members, people who hadn't spoken to the main family in years, also joined in. They confirmed the same behavior: lies, cover-ups, and cold hearts hiding behind money and reputation. Soon, reporters picked up the story. Even though no names were shared, people started to connect the dots. Photos from past parties, social media posts, and old news articles led people to figure out who the powerful family was. The backlash was quick. Donations to the family's charities stopped. Events were cancelled. People who once wanted to be seen with them began to pull away. The shine around them faded. Investigations started, looking into how they treated workers and how money was used. They couldn't hide anymore. Then, Jason's ex spoke out. She shared her side. She said she had been used by the family, brought back to test old feelings, made to feel important, and then pushed aside when things got messy. Her story made people even more angry. The truth was clear. This family had hurt many people for years and thought they would never be caught. Through all of it, Ava stayed silent. She never said the post was hers. She didn't need to. In town, people started calling her the woman who took down the untouchables. Some whispered her name with respect. Others just nodded when they saw her pass by. She didn't want fame. She wanted peace. And now, finally, she had it. Months passed. The noise faded. The internet moved on. But her life was just beginning again. In a quiet city far from her old world, she found peace. She woke up without stress. She worked, laughed, and finally felt free. No more secrets. No more pretending. The woman who once stood beside her during the dinner, her surprise guest, was now one of her closest friends. They spent weekends together, shared meals, and talked about everything. The past connected them, but the future was where they were headed. Jason tried to contact her. He sent messages. He called. He even wrote a long letter, but none of it was answered. She had already let go. She didn't need his words. He had stayed silent when it mattered most. Now it was her turn. She focused on herself. She grew stronger, kinder, and more confident. No one told her she didn't belong anymore. She chose where to go, who to trust, and how to live. One night, she was invited to a formal gala in the city. It was a large event, full of people in elegant clothes and bright lights. She walked in alone, dressed simply but beautifully. Heads turned. She didn't need to say a word. Her presence was enough. As she moved through the room, someone called her name. It was a familiar face, one of Jason's family friends. He used to smile at her but never stood up for her. He looked surprised to see her. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said. She smiled softly. "Things change," she said. He nodded slowly, unsure of what to say next. Then she looked at him, calm and clear. "You know," she said, "there's always been room for me, just not in their small little world." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving him standing in silence. She didn't look back. That night, under the city lights, she felt strong, not because of revenge, not because of what she had exposed, but because she had survived it all and come out better. She had found her own place. And this time, no one could take it away from her. Do you think she made the right decision by walking away from Jason and his family for good? Or should she have given them another chance to make things right? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your take. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next one.